Good evening, Winthrop votes the issues. Welcome to the first edition of our rebranded show. Uh, got a big night planned for you. Super excited. Lots to talk about. Scott, how you been, my friend?
Doing good, buddy. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. Just in case you get new viewers, I'm Todd Sacco. This is my producer, our producer, Scott McLean.
And co-host. Don't
And
cut me short.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got a long title. We got to fix that.
Yeah.
Is the pay commensurate with the position?
I'm happy with what I get from this. Let's put it that way.
So we've got a really interesting evening planned. We did want to start with we invited Jim Lettieri, the council president elect, back to congratulate him and give him the opportunity to thank the voters. But I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight our members and those who do watch. Just with what's happened over the past couple months. First and foremost, in the last 60 days, we've had 9,000 unique people come to our group. We have 306 members total. So we've seen some pretty significant jumps over the last week in people signing up. So that's first and foremost. Thank you for that. But more importantly, this election, I think, was impacted by the community in a different way than ever before. First, we saw the widest margin of victory, and Jim can correct me when he comes on if I'm wrong, in a council president race, and we also saw the first candidate to win all 6 precincts. The disappointing side of this is we only had 3,000 folks come out. Now, that could have been a combination of things, low interest in the particular election. It could have been one of the candidates, people didn't just come out. I don't know. It could have been anything. So we're hoping to turn that around. But in the spirit of this community that we're building here, I think we want people to be involved. We started this site to get local politics going. I think this election certainly did highlight the power of information and how we were able to show as a community here how federal and national issues seep into local issues and how being vigilant locally can protect your community from the things you're most worried about or most concerned about politically. So kudos to everybody who's part of this thing. Scott, if you have anything to add before we bring Jim in.
Yeah, I do. I want to thank the people that watch, the people that watch live, the people that watch the after views, as we call them. We get a large number of after views once the show is over, and I want to thank them for following us and possibly, us influencing them or informing them. I should say, not influencing, informing them. I got a big handful of messages from people that watch the live stream and the after views saying that if it wasn't for you and I in this show, this live stream, they wouldn't have known probably anything about what was going on with the soon-to-be former town council president. And so, as someone actually, more than a couple of people actually said that we give more information than the transcript, which is what I always say, Winthrop votes, we bring you the news that the transcript won't.
That's right.
So I guess we're having a small effect on things, and that's what we wanted, transparency.
That's right.
And everybody, we're going to try to hold everybody accountable for their actions. And this is a slowly growing, it's like a train leaving the station, this show. The wheels are spinning, they're going to grab, and we'll do fine.
Yep.
So
just need people to keep sharing, and that's a great segue to bring Jim in. Speaking about watching everybody on the councils and committees, we have Council President-elect Jim Lettieri. Evening, Jim.
Good evening, fellas. How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, we're doing.
Congratulations.
By piggybacking on a little bit of what I just heard while I was in the green room was, you thanking everyone for listening, but as a citizen, I want to thank you guys. It's a unique opportunity for people to come on and talk, and I was fortunate enough to watch a lot of the segments, and you had many different people from totally different philosophies, political views, political opinions, and you handled it with grace, and and I thank you for that as a citizen. I think it was not just a single focused list of people coming on, of guests. You had a wide variety, and it's very much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
and we hope to have more in the future. You know,
Yep.
we're open to anybody, a citizen that's not a citizen, but not even somebody that's on the town council or representing Winthrop. Just if somebody wants to come on and have a discussion with us, we'll bring them on too. This is Winthrop's show. It's not ours.
Yeah.
And like I always say, you guys are the engine that runs the machine. So
We're just the vehicle to get you there. And you know, to your point, Jim, I think this is how we actually get the community more involved and get people more involved is by offering it and being fair to everybody and that participates. So thank you for that comment.
yeah. And congratulations.
Yes, most importantly, yes, we were with. So everybody knew I was with you, so no secret there. But on the heels of what Scott said, we are watching. Wait, where's my finger pointing?
Yeah. You are now on the clock, Jim.
Yeah,
Well,
You're
at
on
least
the
wait
clock.
until I get officially sworn in before you start beating up on me. But you know, I'm ready to start working, and you know, effort is not a problem. I will put in the effort and listen to the people. I mean, it's, you know, a lot of municipal government and government in general is just painfully slow sometimes, and you know, a 2-year period is such a quick period of time. So I really want to, you know, not to get things done just to say I got things done, but to get things done the right way. That's going to move Winthrop forward and keep us in a good spot for the future, because, you know, it's all about the future. Everybody wants a better life for their kids and a better place to live and grow up and go to school and such. And, you know, if I could be a small part of helping that out with the rest of the council, I think, you know, I think it's important. I'm one person, I'm one voter on the council, but I think it's really important that we all work together to try to come to finality on a lot of stuff that's just been kind of hanging on there. Like, you know, there's a lot of low hanging fruit. Let's just go get it and put this stuff to bed.
There you go.
But I will say, and just a quick thank you to everyone who voted, regardless of how you voted. It's, you know, I take that extremely seriously, to go out and use your right to vote, because it's hard to bitch about stuff if you don't go out and vote. So to anybody who voted, whether they voted for me or my opponent or whoever, I think it's incredibly grateful, and it's humbling. You know, I did hear Todd say that, you know, to win 6 precincts out of 6 is
It's a clean sweep,
that
buddy.
hasn't been done. It was very humbling.
Is this?
I'd like to think we took a little credit. We'll take a little credit for that.
I think
We're all jumping on your bandwagon, Jim.
That's right. Well, you know, the excitement level, let's just bring this down to earth. The excitement level for the council president race wasn't that high. It was really school driven. Or would you disagree with me, Jim?
You know, I don't know. I've tried, you know, it's easier to break down numbers when you had a positive result. And then I've looked at the numbers every which way. Was it some COVID related stuff? I don't know. Some residual was, you know, I in hindsight now, I don't think we as a town really advertised the election as much as we have in the past, in terms of like, you know, billboard signs coming into town, and even with, you know, some election voting sites changing, even though they weren't far from where we've been voting, and they were all locations we've used in the past. I think it might have been a little confusing to people. The day was great. I mean, the weather was fantastic. The weather's not an issue. Parking really wasn't an issue. So, you know, I think it's a combination of a few different factors, but, you know, you had 2 candidates running for council president, 3 candidates for precinct 3, multiple candidates running for library trustee, multiple candidates, you know, 7 candidates running for 3 positions on the school committee. So there was definitely enough action out there to generate more votes, I think. But, you know, we'll see. And I think we'll get a better idea in December when they have the primary for the Senate, special election for the Senate. And we'll get a more of a view that we could take away after we get the numbers for how many people are voting in that.
Jim, who was your campaign manager?
I think his name's Jim Lettieri, but you know, I'll give a lot of credit to my son Jake too.
There you go.
And you know, it's good. It's always good to surround yourself with smarter people. So I think it's important. But a lot of people,
your boy stepped up for you. Yeah?
We had a good amount of people helping in a lot of different ways, and you know, sometimes I tend to micromanage a little bit, and you know, but but I think we were fortunate to have a lot of people and a lot of different people that you wouldn't necessarily say are all going to come together and be as one, but they did. I have some great pictures from Election Day with unique people holding signs and standing together.
Don't say unique. Call it out, brother. You was me and Peter Gill, and I voted for him.
That's right.
You know what I find? I'm sorry, Todd. I find interesting is you had a more of a grassroots campaign. You did it, boots on the ground, and your opponent hired a firm to run his campaign for him. So you kind of, as I say, you beat the machine, and it just goes to show that money can't always buy an election.
Well, it was grassroots, but we had a lot of really good people doing a lot of stuff. And now in this day and age, social media really plays a big role too, including you guys doing this show. But it's a lot of social media posts out there.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
friends cards, just old fashioned, like you say, grassroots kind of old fashioned stuff.
Yeah.
And Peter was fantastic. And to see Peter and Todd out there together really brought it all together for me.
All right. Well, we got Meredith waiting in the Meredith Hurley waiting in the green room. We promised her that we'd only give you 10 minutes. We gave you 11.
Okay. Well, always a pleasure, guys. I'm sure I'll be on in the future, but thank you guys for
yes, you will,
for having this forum. It's truly appreciated.
Thanks, got it, Jim. Buddy.
Take care, guys.
All right. Ya.
So before we bring our friend, well, hopefully soon to be friend of the show, on Meredith Hurley, I do want to kind of frame up this conversation a little bit, Scott, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
From my end of this thing, so we're going to be talking about this effort, because I don't really know the name of what's happening here, but it's an effort to help people of different colors and backgrounds and cultures communicate better, right? For me, there's two issues here. There's the group that we've, I guess, hired to consult us, which is And Still We Rise. And then two, the other is the actual events themselves. So for me, I want to get to the bottom of the people behind the scenes that are consulting us a little bit, just to understand that decision a bit more. And then two, I want to learn more about how these Zoom classes are supposed to work and what the expected, what success looks like. What is your goal here for tonight, or what are you hoping to get out of tonight, Scott?
Well, let's bring on Meredith, and we'll get right into it.
Okay.
Good evening, Meredith.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hi, Meredith.
Welcome back from the green room.
How was the coffee?
Best green room on Facebook.
I know. Well, I have to say, this is like a novel concept for me. So it's really interesting to kind of watch how you guys do this whole thing.
Well, interestingly, you mentioned the concept. I belong to a lot of Facebook groups, and probably, everything from the Smiths to slow cooker, everything. Most of them are garbage cans. They just turn into a big garbage can. And I had this idea in my head for a while. How come a Facebook group doesn't have a live stream? It's the best way to interact with your people. And I was doing a podcast. I do a couple other live streams. And I had mentioned it to my wife, my brother, and they're like, you're taking on too much, yada, yada, yada. And finally, I found the person that was right for the job, and he's right on the screen up there. And I had mentioned to him, why don't we do this? And he had no idea about live streaming. So we kind of put it together, and this is what we have, And I do think it's a unique idea. I think it's a unique platform, because I don't know any other Facebook groups that have their own live stream. So we wanted to reach as much of Winthrop as we can. So that's the background to this.
The production genius of Scott McLean.
Trial and error. So, Meredith, when did you decide you made the decision to bring in this group, correct?
I did, yeah.
And what was the Flashpoint. What was the moment you said we need this in Winthrop?
Well, obviously, post the shooting that happened here, June 26th, that was kind of the flashpoint. But I think the months leading up to, I think back to where we were just about a year ago and watching two groups of people, right, screaming across the streets from each other in the middle of French Square, really battling out for their voices to be heard, but not really coming to some sort of conversation. And it's really, it's built on top of like the COVID-19 pandemic. There's just a lot of strife in the world, and kind of nailing everything that happened post the pandemic. What I think for me on kind of a simple level was hearing from residents that were of the not white community, of the BIPOC community. And I will own that on June 28th, I had to Google BIPOC. It seemed like it was being talked about, and I quite frankly,
it's a made-up name, Meredith. We can. Well, do people understand what Indigenous means? Do these people understand the word? What Indigenous? A Black Indigenous person of color. So what you have there, you already said they're Black. We've already called them people of color. Somebody wanted to put Indigenous in there.
Just so
are they American Indian or Eskimo? Nah. They're not Indigenous. They're as Indigenous as I am in my family. So the BIPOC thing is a made-up name. It's a nice, virtue signal, and just like Latinx, it's all BS to me. I think that creates a problem.
Right.
And we talked about that, Meredith, right? You and I on the phone that day.
So when you say what was the flashpoint, is more so reaching out to those in the community that are Black, that are not white, and hearing from, folks that either work here or live here, or their children, and how they were impacted. But everybody impacted that day. Like people that live in this town, people that grew up in this town but don't even live here anymore, and hearing that they were shaky about where they, is this the way that the community, they didn't know if it was just feeling like this unsafe feeling, and how to, kind of flush that out, because I don't, it's not my understanding that there's a large, fear of racism and violence towards it in this community. So it just kind of like fleshing out the aftermath of that.
Well, we had the police chief on last week, and he said there's been a hate crime like every 3 years, I think he said. So 2 to 3 years, they've had hate incidents like a few times a year. So this issue with the June 26th, which is extremely unfortunate, and I don't think anybody out there has anything to say about it other than that. The individual was mentally ill. He had mental illness. So why aren't we reaching out to the mentally ill people and saying, hey, we're going to help you? Why did it go automatically to, we got to help the Black people, we got to help the marginalized people in the community? Why aren't we helping the people with mental health issues?
We are, and we have been for years.
Are we bringing in a group of people to help them? Like
BMC.
What's that?
We have Boston Medical Center through my office, helping for mental health concerns in the community.
Do they have virtual meeting, virtual classes, and the same thing that's going on with this We Shall Rise or We Keep Rising?
So yes, classes, or do we have like education for families of folks that are trying, or advocates of those with that are trying to advocate and have the conversation around mental illness? Absolutely. We have those every single day in my office.
Okay.
We also were just funded for through the Department of Public Health to increase that capacity massively to the tune of $450,000.
Excellent.
Because of the discrepancies in servicing for all folks around mental illness, all folks around substance use disorder, things like that. So those are definitely conversations that we have been having in this, or even these efforts, these interventions here.
This person that did this was the perfect storm for disaster. He did have a racial problem. He was a racist, and he had mental illness, and that turns into what we saw. I mean, wipes out a whole house, and then takes out 2 people. But that, like I said last week, that's an anomaly. That is an extreme anomaly in Winthrop. Well, so I'm wondering, you wanted to, what do you want to accomplish from this? How many people do you think this is really going to bring into the light? Of we're going to train. We're training for white people only.
So the idea is more so to, we heard from a fair amount of the white community who live here that were interested in being part of having more conversations about race, but weren't comfortable or didn't know where to begin with that.
Just a quick question on that, Meredith. Fair amount. Give me some context if you don't mind.
About 25, 26.
In the context of 18,000 people, I'll ask your opinion. How would you rate that on a level of priorities for the town of Winthrop? If it's 18 out of 18,000.
I don't think that we can diminish people's experience based off of.
No one's diminishing anyone's experience, but we are running a town, and I'm asking because we have limited resources. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just curious. That's a real question and concern. And where I'm going with that is we could be, I know it's grant money, and maybe you'll touch on this. It's grant money that's funding this program. And I'm going to get into this with this, and still we rise or something. I don't know what they're charging you, and I don't want to know, but I've got some questions about that when we get there. So, but the bigger point I'm trying to drive towards is, we can't diminish people's, but we also can't be everything to everyone. And that's a real point. That's a real concern and something we have to address. So that's why I asked that. Absolutely.
So I think to kind of bring it back a little bit, you can look at this from a large scale, like a very large, disparity, why does public health how does public health, integrate into this? Like, quite frankly, it seems like public health is being at the forefront of a lot of things,
certainly is.
Since people figured out what public health was, it's like, I get alerts from the CDC saying, gun violence is a public health issue. And it's like, oh, do I have to solve gun violence now too? Like, race is a public health issue. And it's like, oh gosh, now I have to try and solve like racism. And, and then I kind of take a step back and I look at it on a micro level. How can we inform and do better for the small little interactions that we can have in the community? And that's really what, is driving this, is more so of, Todd, you and I have texted and we've talked back and forth, and I've owned the fact that I myself feel some intimidation around this. And the whole thing is when we're talking about racism, and when I've talked with Black residents, and when I've talked with Black colleagues, and when I've talked with Hispanic colleagues and Hispanic friends, they're tired. Like, many of them have expressed fatigue about talking about race because they don't want, it's just like a continuous like chatter about it. And then I have folks that are part of, the white community that want to know how to, but we do it every day. And like, people do it constantly. It just seems like there's a lot of conflict and there's not like a progress. And like, we have to, get to a place where and this is not this community. This is very specific folks in this community. Or like, for example, just last week, I had somebody call my office who is a non-school based childcare provider. And she said, I don't know how to answer this question. And the question was by, a young girl of color who is in her care. Am I going to get shot on the street? Right. So that's what children think, right? We as adults like can process that in a different way. So that's like an opportunity that perhaps like we can have that provider who is part of the white community make that child feel more comfortable, but she didn't know how to react to that.
If I can stop there for a second, that's actually a good jumping off point. So please remember that. But I want to go back. Scott, can you bring up the screen share? Because we'll get to that too. I want to stop there, but I want you to. Can you see this? Do you think people can see this at home? Because it's tiny on my screen. Mm-hmm. But the big issue is in the blue, right? So I want to take a step back for a minute because I think you're right, Meredith. And I've had these conversations with Hannah Belcher and friend of the show, Hannah Belcher, friend of the show,
Wendy
Millar-Page. We need to have these conversations, but saying a series of virtual trainings for the white residents of Winthrop, it ain't going to get you mass produced.
No, it's not. I know. And I did that wrong. So
it's white people with an exclamation point.
Let me hold on, please. Sorry. You didn't necessarily do that wrong because we're onto something here. First of all, to address the young girl's question about, am I going to get shot in the street? My first and immediate question is, why would you say that? That's the first question. Because I want to understand if she's thinking about it, is it because she's black or because some crazy guy was running around with a gun? We can't make the assumption it was racial. And that's where the big problem with this is that national politics, which is full of lies and deceit with the media and everywhere else, this is where it trickles into local politics. Because we just made the point early on. These racial incidents that happen are not the large numbers we're being led to believe they are. And that's the first part of the problem. But secondly, we need to be able to have these conversations, to your point, Meredith, locally. And we need to get people to be involved on an easier level. I don't think making them sign up for Zooms and coming to a scheduled thing necessarily is going to work. I think maybe something ongoing, something like a podcast, a temporary local, I don't know, just riffing here. But my other question is the grant money that we're getting, can you redirect it? Can you, if you were unhappy with All We Still Rise, you couldn't.
Oh yeah, we can end contracts. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So to your point though, we're not making anybody go. It's something that there's like folks that are interested.
No, I know. But we want people to be interested, right?
Absolutely.
I think everybody's in agreement here.
What I didn't, and like, to put it back on myself, I didn't do enough of the pre-education, right? So, and this is where, and I've talked through this with Todd, like this was, when I saw the what you just put up, Todd, the kind of the materials, promoting it, I had that first like recoil and like reaction, like, oh, I don't know if that's going to go. Like, I don't think that that's displaying what the purpose is of like what we're trying to accomplish here, like of, and then I thought, well, is that because I haven't, that I'm displaying some implicit bias that I'm not recognizing, right? Like, is it wrong to say that? Is it right to say that? That's where like I get even myself. And so perhaps like that's why we are leaning on others that have done really deep formative work around like facilitating conversations. That's all that we want to do. Facilitate some conversations constructively.
No,
and there's no
conversation
shame.
Conversation is good.
Not a blame.
Right.
No, conversation is good, but when conversation turns into training, it's not good. It takes away from the conversation. Now it's, I'm telling you, and you're going to listen.
It is not like that.
And that's why I say conversation is one.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure, because what repels me from this, Scott, again, if you could share my screen. I don't know if this is going to be big enough to read, but I'm going to read the important parts that really struck me. So this is the founder of And Still We Rise. Okay, Natasha Holmes, and she is now this is how she lists it on her own page herself first. Dr. Holmes is a psychoanalytically and trauma-informed Black feminist and womanist psychologist. So she's a first and foremost Black feminist and womanist psychologist. She's not I'm a psychologist. So I could never understand how someone like this, everything, you can go on to read her bio, you can go onto their Facebook page. Everything is about helping people of color. Everything is, and to me, I think this group is a shell of some kind for political action. I couldn't find anything, so I can't say it for sure. I didn't spend a ton of time, but this is all word salad. Like if you read this woman's bio, you would think that she's put people on the moon, for God's sakes, and cured cancer, because she has so many educational accolades. But the point, again, the larger point being about this person is this person doesn't seem to me to be someone that can direct engaging conversations. And by the way, her first piece of advice was to separate the groups. Please help me understand how that's helpful.
Oh, so first of all, I've had since June over 20 conversations with Natasha and her team. And so reading her bio is perhaps not the best reflection of the work that she's doing for the town of Winthrop. That's the work that she does in her clinical practice. The work that she is doing in the town of Winthrop is very much, we after the release of those materials last week, we got a lot of information about this community, right? That was very triggering, and that was not what people, and so we're taking that back, right?
But I don't think that was her intention. She didn't want what she got back.
Oh no, absolutely, she expected it. Not that she expected it, but she was fine. Her and her team listened intently to what we're saying about the community. I would love to have more inclusive dialogues going forward. That's what we want to kind of happen. So there was something else. I forgot my last.
Well, I asked you how we were supposed to accept the fact that this is a professional about separating the groups.
Right. So because sometimes so here's my example on this. You two are both men. I'm a woman. I know that I've been in situations, and around probably the age of 14 or 15, I realized that there are different opportunities for boys than there were for girls. It has changed. We have progressed significantly through multiple policies, laws, things like that. I also claim to be much more, a feminist and things like that. But when I wanted to talk about those episodes, or those feelings, or those kind of power struggles and the dynamics that have come about, I'm going to my female friends, right? Especially when you're young and vulnerable.
Sexist.
No, but that's only natural.
Right. It's natural, but it doesn't change unless men are also part of that conversation.
But right? Why is it bad for you to go to your women friends to talk about things that women can relate to?
But why is it bad to go to your in a white space to then try and inform better conversations?
Because you're trying to inform better conversations with people of a different culture and background. You can't do it in your own echo chamber. You're not getting. If I'm surrounding myself with a bunch of white people because I'm afraid to talk to black people, and I'm surrounding myself with these bunch of white people to learn how to talk to black people, don't think I'm going to be very successful.
Well, you are when there's, folks that are highly trained in having these conversations.
So let me be the devil's advocate here. As Todd knows, my wife has she has a PhD. She's a pediatric and family nurse practitioner specializing in women's health and a couple of other things. And she did her dissertation on intimate partner violence in the Latin community between the ages of 16 and 27 or something like that. And she did all her research, did all her questionnaires. And part of the thing that she found out is cultures do tend to stick together. The Latin community, kind of, they're brought up that way. You don't kind of go outside the community.
There's nothing wrong
keep
with
it in
that,
the house, keep it in within your world. And that's the same for the Black community, and it's the same for the white community. So I think what you did, what you're doing, Meredith, is good. I think the way you worded it caused more problems than it was worth. Because the first time I read it, I was like, what the?
I know.
Like, I'm dead serious. I think that's what came out of my mouth. Like, what?
You know what? I think that, I should have probably, I don't know. It's a little, the fatigue of everything.
You do a lot, Meredith. You do a lot.
Is really, and, I find myself probably I wish that I had more hours in the day, quite frankly. And I should have dedicated a bit more time and trained my eyes on it a bit more.
Candidly, sorry, Meredith, I don't mean to cut you off, but candidly, I think this is more, I think we all agree on the show right here and now that this is the right thing to do. I think the execution, obviously, we're talking about the execution being better. But candidly, we're also thinking way too much about this. Like you and I spoke about they separated it because they wanted to have people in, what are they called? Ally groups or something like that?
Affinity groups.
Affinity groups. And my response to you was very simple. We're talking about public health. Okay. First and foremost, I don't care what anyone says. In every single group, there are going to be people taking advantage of the grievance du jour, so to speak. And I'm sure some of these folks who don't feel comfortable talking in front of white people and vice versa, I'm sorry, I'm sure some of them are full of it. But let's assume I'm completely wrong. We need to focus on the people who are ready to go. That's the best use of your resources. If someone has trouble communicating with Black people or white people, maybe we can send them some information about where to find help for that. Maybe they can reach out to this and Still We Rise. Again, I don't know how these people are experts when everything they focused on is black, and womanist and feminist and this. There's nothing about white in there, so I'm not sure how you are experts in this. But and by the way, I'm sorry to do this, Meredith, but these guys haven't been around very long either, so I have a huge problem with their expertise. But you and I can disagree on that and move on. But I think to the point I was trying to make earlier, and maybe you could tell me if we could do something like this. How do we get rid of this, separation, pull people together, and facilitate a conversation that's meaningful? Because we need the people who are interested.
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah. So that's this is that's the next phase in this approach. We figured take smaller steps and then build and build and build. Unfortunately, because of my not laying a good foundation, we went backwards a few steps. So looking forward to kind of, this is a foundation for further conversations. And perhaps like somebody like you, Todd, you're not interested in this. So you don't have, but you will be interested in kind of the next kind of round of.
But I think Todd would be somebody that would probably go in and ask the questions and try to get, because they're there to answer those questions.
They are.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, I'd love, part of the reason that this site is here is to address these issues locally, specifically. Candidly, there are people on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee that throw bombs at us and our 20 list viewers. Oh, got a call coming in.
Got a phone call.
One of them should come on this show because I think they have something to do with this. I want to see progress.
You're on Winthrop Live. Winthrop Votes live stream. Todd got me messed up.
Sorry.
Who's this?
Well, it was Facebook user.
Yeah,
Wendy Millar, friend of the show.
Wendy Millar Page.
Active participant in the white affinity group that has been working with and We Will Rise.
Okay.
Are you shocked? I'm sure you all are.
No, not even a little.
No.
All right. So what's on your
I wanted
brain,
to say
Wendy?
What's on my brain, Todd? That's going to be more than coffee.
All right.
In all honesty, I participated in the first event. I'm probably going to have to miss tomorrow night for town council, but I was actually really engaged in the way that they presented. And I think that the Meredith's right, saying that it's for white people only. And it was the same thing with the initial, because I knew about the initial one that came out for our Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. So I didn't say the
you
word.
Added a word in there. You added a word. You put and. That's not BIPOC.
Shame.
Stick to the script, Wendy. Stick to the script.
You got to learn that about me, Scott.
I know.
But in all honesty, it was insightful. It was an interesting. I found it. I've done so. Let me backstep a little bit. I've done some of this work before, and I've done some of this work through the church that I used to be very actively involved with, especially when we were training people to go into communities that weren't similar to their own to work in other communities, right? So one of my first churches that I got to go and participate in was in Roxbury. I'm not going to have a same result and conversation and be able to do the work I need to do if I don't have a clear understanding of the community I'm going to visit, right?
Right.
That'd be like going to a foreign country and having no idea, being dropped on an island and going, what am I going to eat? Where do I sleep? What happens? Oh. So for some people, that is their experience of being in Winthrop their whole lives.
Even still, Wendy, and that may be true, we don't, as a community, we don't have the bandwidth, and I'm saying as a community, we don't have the bandwidth to be addressing everybody's individual niche. And we're not going to be successful with people who aren't motivated to figure those things out. Look, let's look at it from a different viewpoint. There are many Black people in this country who have weathered that storm, for lack of a better term, and have come from really bad places. Some we know of. Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Ben Carson grew up in the projects. Dr. Ben Carson performed the first successful separation of conjoined twins at the head. My point is, while it may not be huge numbers, who really knows, it can be done. A Black person can walk into a room of white people. When I used to hire people, I interviewed, one of the interviews and steps in the interview process was to have someone come and present to a room, okay, to the certain heads of departments. Just so happened they were all white men, and my candidate was a Black man who was interviewing for the job. Again, I'm not diminishing the other people's experience. What I'm saying is we need to focus on where we can win. And then I think the rest of it just snowballs. And also, Wendy, you need to look at this from other people's perspectives. We're trying to get people involved in this. You hit the nail on the head. You said the messaging wasn't right. Not only was the messaging wrong.
Winthrop folks, it's definitely going to take people back.
Well,
absolutely,
right.
because it's one of those, whoa, what the heck?
And I don't think
Meredith.
As long as
but that's not any way of dig on Meredith or what have you.
She got that advice from this group. And as long as this group is involved, in my opinion, you're going to have low turnout because I don't believe who these people say they are. I just don't.
Okay, well, here nor there. Yeah. I was part of the reason I was trying to just speak up a little bit is because I was an active participant for an hour and a half. For their first Zoom meeting. And they did a really good job about asking and there were people there of multiple generations. And I'm not sharing because we did agree that what we said there was to stay there between the folks that were there. But some of the things we talked about were what we experienced Winthrop as, how we saw it growing up. What were the things that we really love about our town? And so it was getting to see other people's points of view. And that's the quote unquote training that was that night. It was listening to other people and really hearing where they are and holding them there. And then you can see where that is. And that's the difference in some of these trainings that are held this way, and why they separate and give people the opportunity to be more comfortable. Like Meredith said, women talking to women about certain things. People of color will talk more openly and freely amongst themselves, and so will white folks.
Communicate. So I'm going to be a conservative.
Hold
squishy,
on.
squishy,
Then you move
squishy,
forward.
squishy.
I get that that's squishy, but guess what? Sometimes that's the only way you can get someone else to change their perspective. Did you ever think that you and I would speak on any of these topics? No.
You didn't change my. No. What changed? Let's talk about that.
I'm not saying I've changed your mind. I'm
no
saying
one's changed my. I've always had this perspective. I will talk to anybody. Anybody.
Right. I know that. Let me go backward. What I'm saying is people of who are obvious to other folks having difference of opinion might not feel comfortable having dialogue. So if you give someone the space to share what their thoughts are, talk about why they're feeling the way they're feeling, and then you bring the next, and I agree with having a next step. I talked to you guys about this last week. The next step is then bring people together and let them have that experience.
All right. Well, your brother just messaged in. He said he wants to hear Meredith.
Hi, Meredith.
Yeah, he has to listen to me all the time. Thank you, Meredith, for letting me interject. I just, as a person who participated, wanted to share.
Wendy, it's always a pleasure. Thanks you very much.
Oh, pleasure's always mine, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So, Meredith, how long do you see this process going?
I think it's I mean, up through December,
Okay.
where and kind of with like we're taking feedback from every session that is being held, and here learning, right? So I learn from this community every single day. I learn from this community. Bet. I've learned a lot of wonderful lessons. But the thing is I also don't assume that I know everything about this community. And so I've had a lot of really interpersonal conversations with people, more so around COVID for sure. But it's interesting to me. What I saw and have seen directly through the pandemic has been like impacts of disproportion on health and well-being. And why is that? Like, I don't know what that answer is.
What do you, can you give me some color there? What do you mean by disproportion in health and well-being?
So folks that were non-English speaking were more often not being seen by providers and, were in smaller areas, right? So like households that were approaching 10, 12 people, right? So COVID was spreading really fast in those kind of environments. And we're struggling to either have food. So they were often the folks that we were reaching out to and, trying to support them through food. And on more than one occasion, I had positive COVID cases that were concerned that their breathing wasn't going well, but they couldn't afford to go to the hospital. They were concerned about how they were going to afford an ambulance ride. So on a few occasions, I would go out and listen to their lungs. And by no means am I a nurse practitioner or things like that, but I know the difference between pneumonia, and I know the difference with an oxygen sat if somebody is trending low. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it's like, and it was probably of the 20 visits I did, 19 were to households that were non-English speaking as their first language.
Just a side question. We have Obamacare and Romney Care in Massachusetts. They can get it for free. I don't understand why some of these folks don't have health insurance to pay for all these things.
You got to understand culture. I mean, not that you don't, my friend, but
no.
My wife also volunteered at a free clinic up in Lake Worth.
Yeah, that
was strictly for the migrant workers. There's a lot of migrant workers down there that work the farms. They're a hidden world. It's a hidden community. Mm-hmm. And she would go in on Saturdays and it's a free clinic. And these people don't know a lot about a lot. You know, they live their life very simple. They're afraid to venture out past that. They hear about this free clinic, and it gets a good reputation amongst that hidden community, and that's what they'll do. So these people might have talked to each other and said, talk to the nice lady at town hall, and she'll help you, you know. So there is that. That's the truth. They're afraid, and some of them might not be legal.
That's what it came down to.
Yeah, some of them aren't legal, and they don't want anything to do with anything that might get them, you know, tossed out of the country.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of fear in those communities.
So, okay, so I get that. That makes sense.
So, and that's that's 20 households, right?
But is that racism? But is that racism? I don't think so.
No.
Why?
Okay.
Why would that be?
No. No, I'm just saying that there's differences in, you know, just from why is public health getting is integrating into these conversations, and, you know, in why is more so because of the health disparities, and, you know, and that is very well documented, that there are unfortunate, like, poor maternal child health outcomes for non-whites versus white women. Why did I have a different experience bringing a pregnant woman in the state of Massachusetts than somebody 10 miles away? You know, that's just it's just, there's a lot of somethings. There's not one something. There's a lot of something.
Right, but I'm willing to bet. Okay, first of all, I want to say to Hannah, thank you for the comment. However, to me, yeah, maybe it's complicated. I signed up for it when I lost my job years ago, and I was furious that I had to pay anything because I pay for Mass Health with my taxes, and the one time I need help when I'm down and out, I got to pay again. So, but the point is, you know, life's hard. Sorry, and I know it sounds kind of callous and cold, but again, if we were constantly spoon feeding people things, they don't learn. And to your point, Meredith, yes, there are differences, but I'm willing to bet, and I don't have the knowledge of this because this is all. So you see how the lines of kind of racism and culture are getting blurred here.
Yeah.
Cultural differences are super important to understand, right? Because I said this to you a long time ago, Meredith. Me, when I was coming up, okay, there's certain members of my family, my older family, who wanted, let's just say, to keep it in the culture. Now, I agreed with former President Trump when he said political correctness is killing us, because oftentimes people say things like my age. Hannah Belcher and I have become very close. I'll say something and she might not get it or understand it, or make a joke at me because I'm being insensitive, because we're from different eras. And so we're oftentimes misunderstood. Honestly, communication is easy. Shut your mouth, open both ears, and don't listen to respond. Listen to actually understand. Make sure you understand the person. Because when you're
what did you say, Todd? What did you say? I didn't. Right? I wasn't listening to you.
When you're sitting there waiting to say, oh, yeah, well, President Biden did this, you've missed everything the person said to you.
And that's common nowadays.
I just gave you that for free. Fire this group and let's start this program all over again. I guarantee more success.
Well, speaking of the group, Meredith, where can viewers find information on this group and the meetings to be held? Because there's nothing really on the town website.
Right. So it's on there, so this is good information. We had some people in the town that were sharing the information, and unfortunately we had some people that were very recoiled, like, this doesn't feel right. This makes me uncomfortable. We were hearing that. So that's why it has been, you know, and that's fine, right?
Because you're afraid of being canceled.
That's fine. So you can either find it on, I'll share it again tomorrow on my social media pages for the public health department. You can also find it on instillwerise.us. They have links to the trainings right on.
And stillwerise.us. And
please
your social media site is?
Just the Department of Public Health and Clinical Services.
For Winthrop
Department. Yeah.
It's on, it's on the town website?
Yeah, it should be. The website's not easy to navigate. I don't find it.
It's it's almost like green screen technology. It's so clunky and old.
It's almost worth it if the town just got a Facebook group, but no participation. It's just informative because you can shut down comments. You can shut down and just feed the information that way. It seems more people are doing this than doing this.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah. There needs to be. Is there an app for that?
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on 9:00, and Meredith, I know you are a very busy woman, and
We're all busy.
we appreciate your time. Well, I'm retired. I'm not that busy. I'm retired. This is my job.
That's great.
Yeah. Jobs.
Yeah, live streaming and podcasting. That's my job now. But I personally want to say thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You probably feel underappreciated at times, or you feel like people aren't looking, or you catch the brunt of people's you're the messenger in the "don't shoot the messenger" saying. I'm sure.
Yeah, but you know what? There's been so much good that I've seen, quite frankly, in the last 2 years. And so, I mean, I try to just remember that, like, during the frustrations and the fatigue sometimes. So I've had some, like, really cool experiences and met some really wonderful people, really hundreds of wonderful people, quite frankly.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah. Meredith, thank you very much for this. You've been a good source of information for me. I have loved our conversations around the pandemic, and specifically, I love the fact that you validated some of my research. So thank you very much.
welcome.
And we would love to have you on another time if the opportunity arises. We appreciate you coming on. Again, this isn't for myself or Todd. This is for the town of Winthrop. The watchers, the viewers, they're the engine that makes this vehicle run. So anytime you want to come on, if there's something you want to announce, we could bring you on for 5-10 minutes, whatever you want, and get an announcement out. And, we're reaching people. So probably better than the town website.
Actually, yeah. Hey, maybe Dr. Natasha Holmes will come on and give me a training, and then maybe she'll win me over. Who knows?
I think that I think that, I think that you have good ears, Todd. So
I'm a good listener.
I'm not going to dispute that.
Thank you.
See, Meredith, you have your fans. Someone said you're the greatest, and someone said, thank you for all you do. I think you have a lot of hidden fans out there, Meredith.
Nobody wants my job. That's why.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Stay there. Please stay. Don't go.
All right, Meredith. Thank you very much. I'm going to put you back in the green room. You can log off anytime you want because we're just going to ramble for the next 10 minutes anyways. Okay. Thank you again, Meredith.
See you, Meredith.
All right. So there you go.
That was a good
interview.
Yeah, that was good. She was good.
She was very good. Very good. She's a busy woman.
Yeah.
Somebody just messaged in. Why is it they say, what then, want then, try to sound to, so under, what? At the end of the program?
I tried to figure that out. I couldn't do it.
Okay. We're trying and we failed too.
F for me.
Yeah. All right. So, that's it. Another show. We're not doing any more Thursday night shows.
Nope.
Now that the election is over.
Election's over.
Hey, go on.
I just want you to know I've been talking to Hannah about doing a little bit of a spinoff here called not Left, Right, Center because that's already taken, but maybe something about finding the middle or where's the middle, just so you know.
Have fun.
So I'm not stabbing. Yeah, I don't want you to think I'm stabbing you in the back. I'm not going anywhere.
Buddy, live streaming and podcasting is all free. I know you wanted to do that with somebody else before, and I'll give you all the information and advice and how to do it all you want, buddy.
You're the
best.
This
is a wide open world out there on the internet. So
let's enjoy it.
Yeah. Maybe I'll call in.
Oh, I'd love that.
I'll be a friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Scott, my co-host and producer.
That's it.
The king of Facebook. Here he is live.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, next Monday night, I think, what was it? There was something I wanted to talk about next Monday night. We have that condo complex up on Shore Drive is popping up again on November 18th through the appeals board, which I think the appeals board needs to be called out in Winthrop. I think and I'm just going to be blunt, and it's not really part of the show's style, but I think them still doing virtual meetings is bullshit. Total bullshit. And I think they're hiding. I think they're making it easy for themselves. I think they like this 5-minute rule, and the guy that runs it, I'll save that comment for next Monday night. But I think we need to stop bringing attention to that they're doing virtual meetings when everyone else is doing in-person meetings. And again, that condo complex on Shore Drive, the 5-story monstrosity, is up for, they're coming in the second time for a proposal. So.
Yep. All right. Well, let's keep our eye on that. I know I had something I wanted to talk about too, and it escaped my dead brain, but we can touch base during the week.
Somebody wants to know, what does KOFB stand for? The King of Facebook.
Yeah, buddy. It's Rob DeMarco.
I wonder who that is. King of Facebook. What?
And Wendy.
All right. Anyways.
Yeah. I think we're still live. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. We're still live. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have a couple topics next Monday night. And for everybody out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
Yep.
Doing this show for you, to quote my favorite artist, Morrissey, the pleasure, the privilege is mine, and Todd's, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Remember, guys, all politics start local. I think this last election just proved it. So make sure we continue to grow the involvement in our local politics.
Starts at the local level.
Yes, that too.
All right. Good night, everybody.